If you can get more people to watch your Instagram stories, then you could probably turn more of them into paying clients. So today we're talking about how you can increase your Instagram story views. Let's get right into it. If you're new here, my name is Liz and I help coaches and consultants add video to their business. Be sure to subscribe so that you never miss any of my future content. Now, why do we have to care about Instagram stories? I keep telling my clients that out of any of the ways that I use social media for my business, Instagram stories are the #1 way that I've been able to convert viewers into paying customers. So what is the big deal with stories? If you followed any of my content in the past, you'll know that I always say that stories are the place where people look to really get a sense of who you are. Your feed and all of the rest of your content will give them an idea of what type of work you do. But how do they actually decide if they like you or relate to you enough to want to work with you? This is usually the missing piece in a lot of our business owners' social media content. They're missing out on finding ways to be relatable and create a connection, a personal connection with their audience. And instead, they're only focusing on things like their long form video content or their Instagram feed or their Facebook page posts. On the other hand, if you focus a little bit more on stories as well, you'll be able to convince your audience that not only are you an expert in your niche, but you are also a relatable person that would be a pleasure to work with. This is why I highly recommend that each one of you who are using social media for your business spend time developing a strong strategy around Instagram stories. Now, there's no reason to just put out stories that just generate crickets and no views at all, because what are you going to gain from that? That's why today we are talking about how you can actually get more views on your stories so that those people who are checking them out will eventually be able to turn into paying customers. So let's jump right into it. So first, let's get some context on what we're talking about when we say good number of story views. Of course, as with everything in social media, there's no perfect number that we're ever aiming for. It's impossible to assume that 100% of your followers are going to be watching your stories. I don't think that happens for anybody. However, there are some general statistics and some trends that we can think about. But first, let me make sure that you're clear on one thing. Instagram stories are shown to people who are already following your account. This is in comparison to Instagram Reels, which are just widely shown to everybody. So when you are creating Instagram stories, the point is you are creating them for people who are already actively following you. They already know who you are, they're aware of your brand, and now they want to dig a little bit deeper, which is why you're posting stories. They are the people who will continuously have your stories in front of them. And not only that, strangers on the internet who are scrolling on Instagram might come across one of your reels, in which point they might go to your Instagram profile, and then they can intentionally look at your story. But unless they take all of those steps, they're not going to be shown your story on a normal day. Anyway, let's get back to the idea of what type of numbers we're looking for here. So the first thing that you want to do is look at your total number of followers. From that, if about 5% or so of that total number are watching your stories, that would be kind of a not so wonderful number. That's kind of on the lower end. So if those are the numbers that you're looking at right now, consider that you have an opportunity to improve those numbers. On the other hand, if about 10% of your followers are actively looking at your stories, that's quite a bit better. It's average, it's pretty good. But if you want to say that people are looking at your stories and they are active and interested in them, then at least aim for 20% or higher. Think about the fact that if 20% or more of people who are already aware and interested in your brand are actually actively following your stories, you have a real diamond of an opportunity to build a further connection with them and take them to the next level. Those are people who are actively saying, yes, things about this person and this account are interesting me multiple times throughout the day. That's why I am actively looking at their stories all day long. So if you're posting Instagram stories and then you're looking to see how many people are viewing them and you're not hitting anywhere around the 20% mark, then today's video is going to be perfect for you. Now, the first and most basic, crucial thing to keep in mind is that nobody wants to see boring Instagram stories. It always blows my mind when I see people posting the most boring things to their stories. Stories are meant to be a peek into your life. So nobody wants to peek into a boring set of stories that indicate that your life is utterly boring, which of course it isn't. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be showing the most exciting things that have ever happened in the history of your life on your stories. But you don't want to capture your stories in such a way that it seems like they are just so low effort with no thought put into them. That's kind of the equivalent of phoning a friend and then they say, "Hey, how's it going?" And you say, "It's all right. You do anything on the weekend?" No, didn't do anything. Did you go anywhere? No, I didn't go anywhere. So that's the equivalent of boring Instagram stories. Instead, think about interesting things that are coming up throughout your day. Think about different ways that you can capture those moments, either by video or by photo, or you can do a little bit of editing. Make it an enjoyable process for the person. I can't tell you the number of big accounts that I follow on Instagram who post unbelievably boring stories, and I don't know why they are losing this opportunity here. They're just taking a snap of, a pillow on their sofa or whatever random thing without keeping in mind the fact that that audience, they are not here on social media to be further bored in their life. Consider the fact that a good number of people are scrolling on social media throughout the day really as a getaway from the rest of their own life. Sometimes when people are bored at work or they're bored sitting around in the rest of their day is when they pick up social media and just kind of scroll for a while, just for something of interest to catch their eye. So you don't want to be the person that shows up with boring content on top of that. So be really, really mindful about this. Remember that social media has changed a lot in the last couple years. The things that might have been interesting in the last 3 years are no longer interesting for people. So be intentional about what you're posting there and try to find the most interesting or unique, thought-provoking aspects of your day-to-day life. Now we're interrupting this video so that I can remind you to subscribe. I think you should do that first. And if you want to get started with video sooner rather than later, be sure to look in the description below for a link for a free resource that I will send you and you can get started right away. So now let's get back to our video. Another way that you can increase your Instagram story views is by trying to space out your stories. If you post all of your stories of your day, all one after another, consider the fact that somebody will bump into your stories, they'll watch the first one, watch the second one, keep watching, hopefully get to the end, and then they will be done. Then they might not see anything from you for another 24 hours, which means now you are going to be off of their radar. That's not the best way to work with stories. Remember that when somebody goes to the top of their own Instagram page, they will see all of the little circles at the top indicating the people whose stories they haven't yet viewed. We know that those are indicated by the little red circle around the story. So what you want to do is constantly be showing up at the top of somebody's phone screen with the little red circle there. That's going to indicate to them that you have more content in your stories that they haven't seen yet. So they'll be prompted to click that. On the other hand, if you post a couple quick stories and then they watch that, then your little circle is going to move to the end of the line there, and they're not even going to think about it again until you post the next one. So instead of that, as a brand, you want to stay front and center. You always want to be at the top of somebody's phone feed. Now, this doesn't mean that you want to post 75 times a day for the sake of always being at the top, but you do want to pick however number of stories you want to post that day and then just try to space them out throughout your day. Now, Instagram has often said that if you post between 10 to 15 stories in a day, that's an optimal number. Don't burn out trying to post stories. On the other hand, don't post one story once every 3 days and think that you're going to get any traction. So find a good number that works for you. It's a wonderful thing to post one in the morning, one in the midday, one in the evening, and then call it a day. That's fine. On the other hand, if you can post a little bit more throughout the day or choose some activity that you're doing and then post a couple of stories related to that, or mix it in with a couple other clips of different things, then you just add some more quantity and some more volume. This keeps you front and center and prevents your audience from forgetting about you altogether just because they don't see your stories. Another thing that you should definitely be doing is using all of the interactive features that Instagram has provided for you. Now, it's not just because you want to make use of what Instagram has given you. That's not the only point of it, although that is a big consideration. The real reason to be using those features is because then you are allowing and forcing and encouraging your audience to engage with your content. So we're talking about using a poll sticker or a question sticker or some type of a slider or something that they have to click or answer or whatever. When your audience starts engaging with your stories, of course we know by now that this is what is indicating to Instagram that people like your content. People are spending time on your content and they are doing all sorts of things with it and engaging with it. This is what all of the algorithm gods are looking for. So these are the type of stories that get shown to more and more of your own followers. So let me clarify what I mean here, because this is an area of confusion for a lot of people. Yes, your stories are shown mainly to your followers, but consider that there is an order of priority in how they are shown at the top of your followers' phone screen. So you don't want to be the person whose stories are always at the end of their phone screen where they have to keep scrolling and scrolling just in order to find your story. If Instagram gets the indication that your stories are engaging to your followers and that people like to see them, they will keep trying to keep your little Instagram story circle near the top of people's feed. People won't have to go searching all the way to the end of the line in order to find you. So this is one real important consideration. I know that for me, when I open my Instagram up on my phone, I will just watch the first couple of people that show up at the top of my screen. I'm not going to be scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and swiping until I finish watching everybody's stories in the world. That never happens. On the other hand, some of the people that I interact with more, some of the people whose stories I often follow, I've noticed that a lot of their little circles are closer to the front of the line of stories, which means Instagram is reminding me that I like this content and they're encouraging me to keep engaging with it. So this is really something to keep in mind. Now, having said all of that, there's no point posting a bunch of stories if people don't actually watch them. It's okay if they watch one or two and then they get busy and then they go on with their life. But our goal here really is to get them to keep watching all of your stories. So you don't want people just looking at one story and then swiping off and, getting out of the system altogether and checking out someone else's stories. So the best way to do that is to build in some type of suspense or some type of a sequence. If you are posting a couple of stories and there is something that you are explaining, then it means that that audience member kind of has to keep watching every story so that they can understand that full explanation. Or if you are showing something, you can create those stories in a sequence so that the people are interested in actually getting to that point of seeing what that thing is. Try not to give away everything within the first story itself, because then people have no motivation to keep scrolling through to watch all of the rest of them. So build in that natural suspense and have some type of a sequence in your mind when you're posting. And one of the most important considerations for increasing Instagram story views is to treat your Instagram almost like a reality show. Believe it or not, reality shows are still very, very popular in this day and age. People love to peek into other people's lives. You might think that you've got the most ordinary, average life ever. We all kind of feel like that most days. However, other people are actually quite in tune and interested in the things that you are doing with your day. People love seeing what your workspace looks like, what type of pen you use, what type of laptop you use, the places where you go on the weekend, the type of meals you have, the type of work that you are doing, what you have open on your computer screen. These are all things that people love to see. None of it is groundbreaking. None of it is rocket science, but people just like to see other human beings and what they are doing throughout their day. It's just a fact of life. So this area of relatability is the key to really getting people to feel like you are the right fit for them. If somebody comes across your Instagram account and another 5 accounts that sell similar offers, talk about similar topics, they are going to learn that topic and understand it well just from your feed posts. That's the place where you're going to be posting more of the information, meaning some of your reels where you're sharing thoughts, some of your carousels where you're providing details about things. That's where all of the education and authority piece will come in. But at the end of the day, people still have to make a decision as to whether you are the right person to work with or one of the other 4 people that have similar content to you and a similar niche. So in order to help them make that decision, bring in your Instagram stories. Show yourself just as you are there so they really get an understanding of what you are like as a person. This is the perfect place for you to humanize your brand and show up as the face behind your business. Once people feel like they relate to you more than they might relate to someone else, it becomes far easier for them to decide, yes, I'd like to work with this person out of all of the people that I've bumped into in this niche. This person seems like someone that would be a pleasure to get on Zoom with, or would be a pleasure for me to email. This person has a lot of the similar lifestyle habits as me, and they seem to talk and walk like me too, so I like that. These are all the things that are going to really come out through your stories. So I encourage you not to keep ignoring your stories or making boring stories. Instead, spend some time to make them interesting, relatable, and build that human connection. So if you like this video, I hope that you will give it a like, share it off with one of your friends. Don't forget to subscribe, because each Tuesday I bring you a new video teaching you how you can add video to your business. So until next time, take care.